everybody, I'm Andy. Welcome to the studio. Today we're going to talk about mastering in the box. If you are a small project studio, home recordingist, etc., you might not be, you might not be throwing your tracks at mastering engineers because it can get costly. It's time consuming. There's a lot of reasons. So there are solutions to help you master your track in the box. Now, what is mastering? Mastering is this process by which we take a 2-track mixdown, which is hopefully already in really good shape, and run it through maybe a multi-band compressor with a little bit of compression up on there, a little bit of EQ maybe, and then a limiter. Something to pump the gain and give it a ceiling and make the whole thing loud and nice. You know the feeling when you're riding along in your car and you're listening to stuff on shuffle and one of your tracks comes in and it doesn't sound as good as the last one. That's what we want to avoid. You don't want to ever have that happen. So what we do is we go into our DAW and we do some things with the 2-track master. So we're trying to emulate the world in which somebody, sitting in a workstation like this would be a mastering engineer and have some nice gear, all kinds of neat stuff that costs a ton of money, and they've got years of experience using it and know just what to do to make these tracks sound perfect. And so since we're not that, we're trying to approximate that. So one thing we can do is use someone's mastering plugin. Today we'll look at two. We're going to look at the Lurssen Matering Console and Slate Digital. The FG-X, I think it's called, and then we're going to also look at what's been given, or what comes built in my DAW, which you probably have the same tools built into your DAW. If you're not using Digital Performer, if you're using Pro Tools or Logic or something like this, you're going to have these tools. They're going to be called something else, but compressor, EQ limiter, pretty basic stuff. So let's get into it. We're going to go one by one. I've got each one on its own track so we can just bounce back and forth and listen to the difference. And I've got them, I've been through it once. We've kind of got them set up already so we can hear what I've done. Now the Lurssen, this is even a demo. I saw an ad for this thing the other day and I was like, that looks cool, I'll give it a try. And yeah, it is pretty cool. So it has a bunch of presets, and then it also has some EQ tweaks that you can do, and then this overall push thing and a gain, and that's the Lurssen. The next one is the Slate, which really all I mess with here is gain, detail, and dynamic perception. I never mess with the compressor. It's on, but it just sits there. And then the other stuff that I'll be playing with are the three DP, the compressor, equalizer, and limiter, which then look like this. I will utilize presets from everything. The only one that doesn't really utilize presets per se is the Slate guy. And that plugin, whoops, opened an empty slot. That plugin is a lot, there's less to do. So there are lots of presets that you can, let's see, what do they have in here? Hello? Oh, those are all just songs of mine that I've already done. Yeah. Whereas the Lurssen, this one has a lot of all these presets. So you got Americana, you got some classical, EDM, hard rock, hip hop, jazz, pop rock. So I think I landed one time on pop rock, and the other time was on like EDM. But really, I don't know what's happening. I think that little button doesn't like touch. So we have a tube EQ, a solid state EQ, a de-esser, compressor, and that stuff. And we've got these controls, these 5 EQ controls. And that seems to, yeah, it's enough. So let's get into it. Let's hear this. So with nothing at all on the track, just straight the 2-track right like it is, we hear this. I don't believe. And what you're going for is a good, strong, clean mix. I can, at the end of this, yeah, I'll open up the project of the actual song, and you can see that real quick what I've got, But you want to make sure that you have all your stuff mixed right, and the appropriate parts of the spectrum and not stepping on each other's toes. And if you do that and you get everything good and good levels and strong, you should end up with a really good 2-track. And to come into your mastering scenario, you should be in good shape. You don't want to have to, solve all kinds of problems with mastering. You just want to give it a little, and maybe a little clarity, a little glue or something. So let's hear the Lurssen. You just heard that. So it sounds pretty good. I'm liking that a lot. So let's hear what some of these presets sound like. Let's say Americana, tight, more glue. It's not Americana, is it? I don't know, maybe it's changing something behind the scenes in the main settings of like the gear. I don't see a lot changing up here, and I don't hear a lot changing either. But anyways, what we can do is now go from, that sounds pretty good. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the Slate. And in the Slate, we're over here. Only thing I do, like I said, is that. And so, and really, we're going to be watching this U-lean. So we've got this meter over here, which tells us what our final output, after all this stuff is, so it's not interrupted with this stuff. We're looking at that top number, that minus 12 LUFS. We're looking for around minus 10. On the Lurssen, we will have. We don't have markers in this project. I don't believe here before. So let's go to Slate. First thing I'll do is bring that gain up to, match. I don't believe here before. You're not rational. Can't hear the roar. Not for anything or anyone. So they're sounding really close to me, and I like them both. There's a slight difference that I could probably EQ away, but I think overall this Lurssen thing sounds really good. I'm digging it. Let's see what happens with this push knob. I don't believe here before. So that seems to, it definitely increases the overall volume, and it might kind of, I don't know, it pushes. Push is a good word for it. If you want to hear what each one of these frequencies do, let's watch. They're very active controls. You can hear the differences in all those. So that's cool and fun, and that's a bit more flexible probably than the Slate model. So let's see, roll that back. What kind of playment are you hearing? Dynamic perception, I can feel and hear that a lot more than detail. Detail is going to depend on what content you're running through there, I think, for sure. A little more active is the low punch control. I like that. So overall, I'm liking this. This is sounding good. The two masters, you know, one versus the other, there's not a lot of difference. They both sound great. Great job, guys. So let's move on to the digital performer. So let's open all three of these up. The limiter. How do we have the limiter set, you wonder? So I basically chose, and again, this is for, because we're just kind of pretending to be mastering engineers. I'm not a mastering engineer. I don't know what I'm doing, and so I'm going to grab presets for stuff. We're going to try to do this fast and easy. We're just like, what's quick and fast. We're spending 15 minutes so far on this. 5 more to go tops, and we're done. So what I've done here is taken what was this preset higher limit and taken the release, which was set to 1 second. We've pulled out as low as it'll go for sure. We don't want any squashing going on. We've also taken our threshold and put it up to the top at 0, and we are going to be boosting gain, if I remember right, somewhere around like 6 or something. 6 or 7, I don't quite remember. So let's play that through and see where our meter ends up coming. Must hold. That's pretty good. That matches up pretty well. So let's see about these EQs. So I'm going to pick, there's a couple of final mix presets. We'll try one. I don't So you can hear the master just from the in-the-box stuff is every bit as loud and sounds really good. I've never used these three like this before. I've always had something else around or used something else that was faster, easier. This sounds good. This is not hard to get a good sound out of. So there you have it. That's 3 different ways to do in-the-box, at-home, we'll call it, mastering. And I've just started again with 2-track masters, and one was the Lurssen, one was the Slate, and then one was just the what's built into the DAW. So you'll have those too. Now, with that all gone through, I did mention we will have a look at that actual track and see why it's important, or just, you know, what I've done to prepare this track to hit that mastering scenario. So what I was talking about was you want to have stuff, you know, spread out in a good mix and everything, you know, good levels, etc., so that when it comes time that you export that and bring that into your mastering scenario, you don't have to be like a miracle worker. All you're doing is giving a little gain, maybe a little clarity, whatever. And so let's play this track. I don't believe here before. Here's our guitars. I do, you know, there's heavy stuff going on there, so we'll have a mid-gain one in the middle and the heavy ones panned way hard left and right. A solo guy floating around here and there, and that's guitars. Easy enough to process guitars. We've got one of the SSL model EQs, kind of a target hitter. We're pulling out a little mids. We're chopping the bottom off. Some compression, little harmonic exciting, not even on actually. That's not the guitar channel really. Well, that's the mid gain channel, or that's the amp channel. Sorry, shouldn't be on because it's the Mahler. So our mid gain, we've got the Neve models, which are great for like the mid gain stuff. Again, I'll chop the bottom off and even add a little bottom back at 80. And then we're boosting some mids. This EQ does a magical thing in the mids. I love it. And so the what we were just looking at before, excuse me, well, I should say we've got for the pan guitars a little bit of the harmonic exciter like I was talking about before, and then we're also driving those into the we're using an Omega console model, and we're driving that in there pretty hard so that, you know, we can get a little bit of compression too. So we can get a little bit of compression also out of that without actually, you know, adding more compressors. Things get compressed enough. And so that is the guitars. For drums, we're using Easy Drummer. That's easy enough. Throw the bass in. Here's our lead vocal. I don't believe we've been here before. We're not rational. We can't hear the roar. Not for any. So I've got a little bit of chorus on there, and then there's this delay which comes up in stereo. Thing or anyone, we abide by rules designed to be undone. And there's how we have the delay set up. So we start with an eighth note delay kind of preset thing, and we have it synced, and then we unsync, and end up kind of pulling, you can see the left is 523, the right's 529. If you make those just a hair different instead of being dead on the same, you get a cool kind of a stereo spread with that. I like to do that. So that's the vocal. Again, the entire mix is I don't believe here before. You're not rational. You can't hear the roar. Not for anything. So we're driving into the mix bus pretty good, and then we're going to go from there into this is, I believe, an SSL bus compressor model, and we're going to squeak that into about 3. If you've not heard what this stuff does, you just did. That's fantastic. We'll turn the console on and off too. We're using an Omega console. We're driving it pretty hard. I like this console. It's bright. I like it for rock stuff. I don't believe here before. You're not rational. You can't hear the roar. And then a little bit of harmonic excitement just on the top of that, and that's the mix. So get it up good and loud, make sure everything's in its right place, and boom, off you go. So that wraps up our look at mastering. Thank you for watching. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.